Aloha, guys. So we are going to talk about Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal getting kicked out of Antny Blinken's last press briefing. So here we go. We'll get first. We're going to look at CNN, and then we're going to go through a couple of the sources like we like to do.
Listening to Secretary Blinken taking questions on Israel-Hamas, that deal, but as you heard, he was repeatedly interrupted by some cringeworthy heckling by activists, which is highly unusual in a situation like this.
Unusual.
Let's listen to that as he was thanking the press at the beginning of his comments.
Not always the most enjoyable thing, but it is the most necessary thing in our democracy.
Reporters in Gaza were on the receiving end of your bombs. Why did you keep the bombs flowing when we had a deal?
I'm happy to address questions.
We had a deal. Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs.
That is Max Blumenthal's voice.
I'm happy to address questions when we get a chance. Thank you.
Order on the mantle of your did you want to finish? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you?
I'm happy to address your questions when we get to questions. Thank you. Thank you.
You helped destroy all religion Judaism by associating.
Yeah, I have a statement. Yeah, I have a statement to make. Thank you.
You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. You waved the white flag before Israeli fascism.
I look forward to taking questions when I get a chance to finish my statement. Thank you.
All right, so that's what happened as this press conference started. I'm going to bring you in, Alex. I mean, we were both sitting here pretty stunned, frankly.
I was about to say she looks very distraught. Stunned is another word.
This is supposed to be a press conference with a room of journalists. Those were
Proper
activists
people
who were...
So Max Blumenthal has been a journalist for a good 20 years, I would say, if not 20, at least 15. He works with the Gray Zone and other outlets. Sam Husseini has been a journalist for, I would think, over 30 years. But yeah, she calls them activists, not journalists.
Interrupting the Secretary of State when he initially was thanking the press and talking about the Israeli-Hamas deal.
Yeah, I think it's really surprising. A lot of our viewers will have seen protests on Capitol Hill, for example, during confirmation hearings, but it's very rare for something like that to happen at the State Department. I'm over there all the time in that briefing room, and you need to have a reason to be at the State Department. You need to have an appointment. You need to have press accreditation to come.
Both of them have press accreditation.
And go. So it's unclear who those people were. So I think there's a real security question.
Ooh, for him to say, why would you do a broadcast and say it's unclear who those people were? Why wouldn't you look it up? Why wouldn't you find out who they were? Especially if they're in the White House, they have to have their names, right? I know who they are. That's so goofy. Why would you say that they're trying to downplay it?
Question there, and in terms of like who gets to come into the building, I think it also speaks to the incredible anger at the Biden administration, both domestically and internationally, for the support that they have given to Israel. You heard someone there talking about allowing them to kill my friends. I think he's referring to journalists in Gaza. But I think the bigger picture.
So his friends, he's an activist, but the people in Gaza are journalists. Max Blumenthal is a journalist that's been to Gaza and done journalism and stuff. He's been to Venezuela. He's been all over the place, right? And done all kinds of different type of things. Look him up. I'll try to leave a link to his work in Venezuela. But why do the people in Gaza that are saying the same stuff, why do they get to be journalists, but the people here are activists that are journalists, though?
Sure, was a good question there from Matt Lee, a legend in that building, from the Associated Press, talking about what's different.
But see, Max Blumenthal is a leftist, and so this is right-wing propaganda. CNN is right-wing. Liberals are right-wing. They're trying to discredit the left, Max Blumenthal. That's how we get, what do you call it when they silence us? Canceled, right? So the actual left is so canceled that people talk about CNN as being the left. CNN is actually right-wing. This is right-wing propaganda talking about actual left people who get censored, who get canceled that fast, right? They get tossed out, just not even act like we're not even there. We're these activists. They're not journalists, they're activists.
Between now and 16 years ago, when Condoleezza Rice was leaving the State Department, they were also talking about Israel and Gaza. And, what's going to change? How can anything change? And as we ducked out there, Secretary Blinken was talking about the Abraham Accords. And I think this is going to be something we're going to be talking about a lot in the coming months. This is essentially going to be the guiding principle when it comes to the Middle East for the Trump administration. Trump, his biggest foreign policy victory, he would tell you, in the first term was the Abraham Accords, the normalization between several Arab countries and Israel. He wants to expand that to Saudi Arabia. And I think that is probably the best chance for things to change at this point, because Saudi Arabia is essentially saying that if we're going to normalize with Israel, then there needs to be a Palestinian state. And that is one thing that could end this war. So there are a lot of moving parts before we get there. But the one thing that really could change the paradigm of what we've been seeing in the Middle East is the enlargement of those Abraham Accords.
And we have, I think, video of another angle of what happened there in the press room at the State Department. Let's watch.
About Israel's nuclear weapons, everybody from the ICJ, I was
This is
sitting here
Sam
quietly,
Husseini.
and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking questions. Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Oh, respect the process. Respect the process. Well,
Respect the process. Be
everybody
cordial.
from Amnesty International.
We're just committing a genocide. Be
From Amnesty
cordial.
International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide
Right.
and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal! Why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't you about Israel?
Wow.
So I can't speak to who that was. What I will say is that,
Why are you on CNN News talking about you can't speak to who that was, and you're showing this dude on the news? It's not that hard to find out who Sam Husseini was. They were in the White House press briefing. They know they have the credentials to be there. They didn't break in. You can know who both those people are.
over the past few years, whether it's the Pentagon, the State Department, the White House, we have seen, and allow me to be cheesy for a moment, this is a testament to American democracy and the way that American administrations approach their press rooms. They give accreditation to a wide number of journalists, and increasingly,
But then they don't let them speak.
what I would call less mainstream journalists, more opinion journalists, who have the opportunity to go to the State Department, to go to the White House, and to ask questions of the representatives of that administration. So I'm always amazed by, whenever I go to these different press rooms, about who's actually sitting there. It's not just Americans, it's people from all over the world, from Turkey, from China, from South Korea, who get to ask questions of people like Matt Miller at the State Department or Karine Jean-Pierre.
There's that guy, the African guy, who tried to speak and they wouldn't let him speak, and he said he'd been there for like a year or two and never got to ask any questions. So yeah, they'll have people from all over, but they only let certain people ask the questions because they know they're going to ask the questions they want to be asked. They won't let people like Sam or Max Blumenthal here, or this is Sam here, but Max Blumenthal or Sam Husseini ask the questions they want to ask.
At the White House. And so there's a relatively open policy for now in these different
For
press
now.
rooms. But what we're looking at is what was supposed to be the final press briefing by Secretary Blinken to a lot of the press who have been covering him for years. You can see a couple of them there in the front rows of the State Department. And he
got
was
that guy all
interrupted
hemmed
in a
up.
very dramatic fashion, not just on this one occasion, but several times
Multiple
during this
times.
ongoing press conference.
Yeah, and I believe we need to check this, but there may have been more than one. It may have been beyond the person we see right here. And
Yeah,
usually,
the
you
guy
know,
sounded
you pointed
way
out,
different.
Alex, you
Max
see-
doesn't sound like
you
Sam.
see something like this on Capitol Hill. We saw it during the cabinet hearings this week with Pete Hegseth. It's unusual to see that in the press room at the State Department. But we also shouldn't lose sight of why everyone is gathered there today, to be able to ask questions of the Secretary of State, Blinken, which is happening right now, about the Israel-Hamas deal. We heard Blinken say that it is imperative that that deal is implemented, as there's been some last-minute hiccups along the way.
Last minute hiccups. All right, we're going to look at First Post next. Oh, no, we're actually going to look at a TikToker then First Post. And this is from the Intercept TikTok.
Today was Secretary of State Antny Blinken's last press conference, and this is what happened.
Please, sir, respect the process.
Oh, respect the process.
Crazy.
Respect the process. Well, everybody from Amnesty International, from Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide.
Respect the process. Now, you just saw a reporter being dragged out of the briefing room for asking uncomfortable questions. Uncomfortable questions about the genocide in Gaza that the U.S. has supported and people like Antny Blinken have covered for over a year now. But that's not even the most egregious part. This is how CNN covered it.
As you heard, he was repeatedly interrupted by some cringeworthy heckling by activists. I mean, we were both sitting here pretty stunned, frankly. This is supposed to be a press conference with a room of journalists. Those were activists who were interrupting the Secretary of State.
Cringeworthy heckling by activists, but it gets even better.
It's unclear who those people were, so I think there's a real security question there. Allow me to be cheesy for a moment. This is a testament to America.
But how can you be a reporter and not know who the people are? Why would you report on this? Why wouldn't you wait, Google it, take 10 seconds, 5 minutes if it takes that long, find out who it is and then do your reporting?
American democracy and the way that American administrations approach their press rooms.
Antny Blinken and the State Department were instrumental in covering for Israel and its genocide in Gaza, resulting in untold losses. We may never fully know the total number of Palestinians killed by Israel in this war. And while CNN personalities can herald this as a testament to American democracy, I can't think of a more fitting end to Blinken's tenure than this. Today was
Israel and Hamas are on the brink of a truce. It's due to begin on Sunday. Israeli hostages will be released in exchange for Palestine.
Sorry about that, I had my volume out. Okay, so let's see what First Post has to say about this. Are they going to report on them as activists or reporters?
Prisoners, and the guns will finally fall silent. That's the crux of it anyway. U.S. Secretary of State Antny Blinken was talking about and talking up the truce yesterday during his final press conference as America's foreign minister. He was highlighting the U.S. role in these ceasefire talks. But should the United States really get credit for the truce? Or should it be blamed for the war, for helping fuel the death and destruction? It seems some reporters at the presser chose to blame the US and Blinken in particular, and this led to chaotic scenes with multiple journalists being carted out while they told Blinken exactly what they thought of him. It's probably not the kind of final presser that Blinken wanted, but that's what he got. Here's our report.
Blinken was all smiles when he entered the room. It was to be his final press conference as the U.S. Secretary of State. He thought he would celebrate the ceasefire in Gaza and talk up the role of the Joe Biden administration. Blinken had a statement prepared and everything, but things went off script pretty fast.
You smirk through genocide.
Thank you.
300 reporters in Gaza were on the receiving end of your bombs. Why did you keep the bombs flowing when we had a deal?
So they even have his name up on the screen, right? These people, this reporting is coming from India. This is thousands of miles away. Those people are in Washington, like not even 4 miles, within 4 to 10 miles. I don't know how far they were from this, but they're like right down the street. I'm gonna take me off so you can see the writing on the screen.
Deal in May. We all knew we had a deal. Everyone in this room knows we had a deal, Tony, and you kept the bombs flowing. Why did you sacrifice the rules-based order on the mantle of your commitment to Zionism? Why did you allow my friends to be massacred? Why did you allow my friends' homes in Gaza to be destroyed when we had a deal in May? You helped destroy our religion, Judaism, by associating it with fascism. You waved the white flag before Netanyahu. Are you compromised by Israel? Why did you allow the Holocaust of our time to happen? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? How does it feel to have your legacy be genocide? You too, Matt.
That was an independent journalist named Max Blumenthal. He gave Blinken a piece of his mind before being shoved out of the presser. And Blumenthal wasn't the only one.
Right, it's amazing. They knew his name. How hard is that?
His dismissal may seem quite mild compared to the next one.
Finally, I just wanted to share this morning.
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Answer a damn question.
I look forward to answering
You know
questions in a
about
few minutes.
You know about Israel's nuclear weapons? Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people. You pontificate about a free press. You pontificate about a free press. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I am asking questions after being told by Matt Miller that he will not answer my questions until I'm asking.
Please, sir, respect the process. We'll have an opportunity to take questions in a few minutes.
Wasn't the point of the May 31st statement to block the ICJ orders? You blocked the ICJ orders.
Please, sir, respect the process. Thank you.
Oh, respect the process. Respect this process while everybody from Amnesty International. From Amnesty International to the ICJ saying that Israel's doing genocide and extermination, and you're telling me to respect the process. Criminal, why aren't you in The Hague? Why aren't you in The Hague? Genocide.
That was another independent journalist. His
in The
name is
Hague.
Sam Husseini. And well, you heard him. He called Blinken a criminal and said he belonged.
You called him a criminal. Yet again, these guys did their journalistic due diligence, and they know who the people they're talking about are. How is CNN going to go on and talk about they don't know if it was 1 or 2 different people and they didn't even know who the names were? That is crazy.
He called Blinken a criminal and said he belonged in The Hague. It was quite the last press conference for the outgoing Secretary of State. Blinken did get a chance to deliver his statement. He spoke about how the Gaza ceasefire was a relief for both Israelis and Palestinians, and that the ceasefire would get implemented on Sunday. Then he took questions at the end from people who respected the process, apparently. But all of this was overshadowed by the hecklers. It shows just how much anger there is towards Biden and his team.
There seems to be uncertainty.
Even the other journalists, the respectful ones, they accused Blinken of rolling over for the Israelis.
There's a sense out there that you gave.
They expressed doubts about the ceasefire, especially because Israel has been bombing Gaza since the truce was announced. They have reportedly killed over 100 people in the last 2 days. That doesn't really inspire confidence. So even if peace does come to Gaza, if the guns do fall silent, it doesn't look like anyone will thank Biden, Blinken and the rest. They seem destined to shoulder the blame for thousands of needless deaths.
Okay, so that's first post reporting, so you can see the difference in CNN. The Intercept was real short. That was that guy that was like, a minute. And then first post versus CNN. One called him activist, didn't know if there was 1 or 2, didn't know their names. And the reporting through the big news these people get paid. This is that was American news. This is an Indian news company or news source or whatever you want to call it. They knew the name, how many people, and had all kinds of, they knew stuff about them. They knew who they were. How is CNN trying to act like a news source? You don't know nothing. But we're going to go to the source. We're going to go see what Max Blumenthal himself has to say. This is going to be Jimmy Dore. He has Max Blumenthal himself on. He just showed the 2 videos of Sam Husseini and man, I forgot how to say his last name, my bad. But Sam and then Max Blumenthal, they just showed the videos, and now he's going to talk to Max Blumenthal.
So Max, just tell people why you did that and whatever you want to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's self-evident, and from the reaction I've been getting from around the world, I think people understand. Anyone who's been paying attention, who's been outraged by the policy and its results on the ground in Gaza, the bloody results, understands why I did it. And, to put it bluntly and maybe crudely, I did it for all the people who are silenced by the weapons my government sent Israel, especially the journalists in the Gaza Strip. And that's what I led my questions off with. The other reason I did it was that I've been attending these State Department briefings and respecting the process as Antny Blinken asked Sam Husseini to do. And Sam has been doing the same. And Sam Husseini, a lot of people don't know, he's been an institution in Washington, D.C. from well before online, but well before there was like alternative online media. And he's been going to official briefings again and again, and he always would respect the process and be credentialed. And what had been happening at these State Department briefings is he was identified as a dissenter who had crossed too many lines in his questions, and couldn't be managed, and it made it hard for them to control the message. And I too was, they didn't like me. Actually, we went, Sam and I, on October 12th, 5 days after October 7th, and started asking Matt Miller about Israel's just wholesale destruction of Gaza City. They were beginning to slaughter lots of children then. And I said to Miller, he didn't know who I was, so it was one of the few times he called on me. I said, they're saying they're going to commit genocide. I was quoting Israeli officials, one after another. They're saying they're going to commit genocide. Like, why are you letting this happen instead of working for a deal? And he just shut me down and lectured me and screamed at me that, Israel had been attacked by terrorists and they had the right to do whatever they wanted. So, but ever since those encounters, they would refuse to call on us, refuse to acknowledge our existence. It wasn't an open discussion in there. They have a whole mechanism for controlling the message in the briefing room, which I can explain. And then beyond that, Antny Blinken is someone who is singularly identified with what I consider to be the Holocaust of our time. He's someone who helped craft the policy. He was in the war room in the Israeli Defense Ministry days after October 7th, helping shape what Israel was doing. He made sure the bombs kept flowing. He even allowed Israel to keep aid out of the Gaza Strip, allowed them to attack humanitarian convoys. And all while pretending that he was fighting for a ceasefire, negotiating tirelessly. And we were told, like, Kamala wants a ceasefire. And Blinken was the one preventing it.
He said,
and not just preventing a ceasefire, but he was preventing his own staff at the State Department from documenting the atrocities that were being carried out with U.S. weapons that you and I and everyone watching this show was paying for. So I don't think we've ever had a Secretary of State who is so directly involved in such a horrific human rights crime as Antny Blinken. While Joe Biden just admitted in an interview that in one of his first engagements with Netanyahu told him he was going to do the equivalent of what America did to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Biden and Blinken proceeded to give Netanyahu the space to do that. I mean, that's like evidence for a Nuremberg trial. So I don't think the State Department as an institution is credible anymore or deserves respect. The process inside the briefing room was not credible either, and was designed to prevent us from speaking, or designed to prevent dissent. The State Department wasn't even hearing dissent from its own employees. And Antny Blinken, when he gives a press conference, they only call on the corporate hacks who you saw just sitting there passively while Sam was basically being strangled and dragged out. And so I decided that the only way to do this was to, break the fourth wall, like just get out there and ask all the questions that I've been replaying mentally in my mind again and again if I ever got in the room with this genocidal, dead-eyed monster, Antny Blinken. There were some questions I left out, but I was able to get them out for about a minute while a State Department staffer was escorting me out. I complied. And then after that, and this is really indicative of how the whole process was a giant fraud, Sam attempted to ask a question out of turn because he knew he wouldn't be called on. He was silenced, and then he stopped saying anything. And then Matthew Miller, the smirking press secretary, summoned those cops, and they just went in on him, right? They pounced on him right then and there. And that's when you saw that exchange that you played. So initially, he tried to ask a question, and for trying to ask a question, he got brutalized by cops. And it is not illegal in any way to interrupt a press briefing with a question.
Hey, it's time to upgrade your coffee. $17.75 by.
All right. Get your coffee, guys. No, but so I thought it was important to let Max talk since he was the one that, got taken out. But as he said, they asked some questions before, and when they stirred the coffee pot or whatever the saying is, they stopped calling on him, so they didn't get to ask any more questions. So the CNN guy was like, "Oh, we let people in. We let people from all over the world in. We let people who are this and that, whatever." But they still manicure the questions. You might get one or two, but if you ask the wrong question, they're not going to talk to you anymore. But guys, to me, this was a great thing. So here, let me go. I'm gonna put the Max Blumenthal in Venezuela on real quick. It's just gonna show you who Max Blumenthal is a bit and the type of reporting he does and why they don't want him asking his questions. To show the reporter that Max Blumenthal is and just some other CNN mainstream right-wing style news reporting, this is.
And what is on the plane are basic goods, things that aren't available or accessible in Venezuela, things like nutritional biscuits, toothpaste, toothbrushes, just basic commodities that aren't available or readily available to Venezuelans right now because of the regime that they're currently living under.
We're at a supermarket in Caracas called Gama.
Max Blumenthal went to a supermarket in Caracas to research Venezuelan humanitarian crisis.
I feel lost in the
Venezuela's
supermarket.
Humanitarian crisis.
Caracas. This is cheeses. There's a lot of cheeses and meats here.
It said Jesus. There's a lot of cheeses.
People here like meat, and there's a lot of meats.
So, in Venezuela, you can go to the rich side, find food. You can probably go to the poor side in that. We have what you call, in America, we have food deserts. So it is what it sounds like. There's no food around. There's only like the not supermarkets, what you call corner stores and stuff where you buy chips and whatnot. They don't have supermarkets. But yes, anywhere, this is how a capitalist world works.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads. Okay, we got like congealed meat.
So this is why he's an activist. Because it's a reporter that'll actually go look for things.
A lot of tomato sauce. You can see the aisles are pretty full of stuff. They got a whole aisle for pasta. A lot of people love yogurt here. Yeah. The cruelty of this dictatorship prevents them from having 0% Greek yogurt. There's energy drinks, all kinds of drinks. Sugars. I don't know what this says. Does it say Maduro is using hunger as a weapon to enforce communism among his people? To make he's forcing children to smile. Here you can see something serious with the speculation is the pet food. Pet food is here. This one costs 66,000 bolivars, which is over $20. That's the problem here. The problem isn't scarcity. The problem is inflation and speculation brought on by the capitalist class of this country.
Capitalist.
Got my toilet paper. This will help with the Pollo Crispy sandwich that I just ate. This toilet paper has chamomile, manzanilla's chamomile, which relaxes your butt. And then aloe vera will cool your butt off. There's a lot of eggs over there. There's some broken eggs over here. Wasting food in Maduro's dictatorship, just throwing it away. This is the fruit section. We got a lot of mangoes. I don't know what that is. I learned this in camp. Does this have chamomile and aloe vera? Oh, it has chamomile. This is chamomile. Chamomile, manzanilla. Thank you, Maduro. Okay, well now we're in the pharmaceutical section.
Toothpaste, toothbrushes, toothpaste, toothbrushes, toothpaste, toothbrushes. Just basic commodities that aren't available or readily available to Venezuelans right now because of the regime that they're currently living under.
Has he been there? Is he?
That'll go.
So is that guy actually there standing by that plane in Venezuela but hasn't gone to the store? Or has he gone to the store and knows that they got stuff there? Or is he not in Venezuela? They're somewhere else. Like, a reporter goes to the place and checks out the stuff and sees what it is. I guess that's an activist now. But the guy on CNN, he gonna tell you they ain't got nothing. I don't know. I mean, this is one store, but they got at least one store got some stuff. I ain't been there, so.
My toilet paper, the aloe vera. Finally found my shampoo and conditioner. Took me like a while to do that because there are so many varieties. Damn you, Maduro!
Too much variety.
We're at the pharmacy. Sí, está bien, pero no hay algo con aloe vera y manzanilla.
I would assume you get the point. But as again, if you want to watch the rest of this, I'm gonna link it in the description. But you know, that's why I like to look at things from across the spectrum, right? We need to look at CNN, we need to look at Fox, we need to look at, go check out the Gray Zone. If you've never heard of the Gray Zone, go check out the Gray Zone, check out Max Blumenthal, check out his reporting, really good stuff. He's an actual left-winger who does grassroots people work first. But you know, you see them getting kicked out, and you'll find out all this stuff, you know, as long as if you look at news from across the spectrum.